I've spent over 100 hours with multi-million dollar contractors, world-class construction companies, and top 1% contractors. I've worked in a construction company doing over 100 million in yearly revenue, and what I've discovered is that they operate on 7 specific principles that most contractors are just never taught. These principles are what allowed me to go from a struggling contractor to helping scale 5 construction companies beyond 5 million in yearly revenue. So today I'm walking you through the 7 fundamental rules of success I learned by working inside a $100 million construction company. Now, although most of this video is going to focus on what I learned from it, the first lesson didn't come from someone with loads of money. It actually came from the mistake that destroyed my entire contracting company. But the funny thing is that years later, I realized that this very first lesson is something that the $100 million company practiced as well. So let's dive in. First lesson is that a $100 million construction company knows that the more they do something, the better they will get at it. And consistency is so key. You may have heard this before, but a lot of contractors are chasing bigger projects, lots of variety of projects. This company, $100 million, the large companies, they stay in their lane. They know what works for them, and they're able to consistently pump out projects over and over again. This helps their teams be more efficient. Quality is better controlled, and they know that they can sell the projects at a specific price, and they become the expert and specialized in that type of project. This $100 million company in specific did mid-level homes. It's what they were known for. They could essentially do tract homes and do one after the other after the other. They weren't chasing to do all these different types of custom or big projects or this or that. So understand that, yes, you want to increase your average job size, but that said, you want to find where can you specialize in, where can you be the best in that specific niche, and where can you turn over consistent profit day after day, month after month. This type of consistency makes it easier for everybody in the company, whether that's estimating, sales, your project managers. Having, in this particular instance, they typically did homes between $300,000 to $700,000 range for the actual home. And they could line up homes. They knew which lots sold. They knew which price points to hit because they had repetitive design and everything. Of course, you can customize for each client and their colors, and there's certain selections and things they can pick. But the overall way they operate their business and the structure of their homes was very, very consistent, one after the other after the other. Locations were very similar as well. So you didn't have project managers or people having to drive all over these, big areas for one house here, one house there. They would pick neighborhoods or new developments where they could consistently have a lot of homes in one small area. And they could essentially control a neighborhood or control a street. When you pick a small development or, a bunch of houses in a row, everybody is more efficient and better. Subcontractors as well. They didn't work with, 10 different subcontractors, even though they're doing 100, 200 homes a year. They only had about 2 to 3, maybe 3, typically 2 different subcontracting companies for a specific type of trades work. This was consistency. You're not, as a project manager, having to keep track of all these different trades. Plus, because they were able to push a lot of work to one company, they obviously got favorable pricing and favorable service. So they would prioritize getting back to projects, finishing up stuff, make sure the quality is on point. Second lesson I learned is how they get so many leads with unique methods, and this completely flipped how I approach growing a construction business. When you're doing hundreds of homes a year, you can't just rely on some random salesperson or building out your own sales team. This company used professionals, real estate agents, so that they could really pick and choose specific agents to work with, but their homes were also up for sale on the big market, and they had essentially other people selling the homes for them. Obviously, they're very active in marketing and lead generation, but their actual sales model enabled them to scale up and down. And there was always large demand for their homes because on the open market, they knew that they could price accordingly, and they were able to build up a reputation over decades, essentially. The marketing was clear. They weren't trying to overshoot. They were in tune with their client. Essentially, after you do so many homes, you start to realize which colors, which areas, which type of design, which type of families, demographics. You can get so consistent and dialed in that you can really start to picture of consistency throughout the whole and having predictable leads coming in. They're also able to have specific show homes throughout. And whenever marketing in general, but when you have show homes, make sure that everything is 100% pristine and you have someone checking them weekly, very often, if not even more often than that, to make sure there's no caulking cracks, there's no little cracks in the drywall, there's no like weird stuff out of place. There's no creaks in the floor, because the show home, and this goes for your marketing as well, has to be pristine, 100% perfect. Because if there's any flaws in the show home or the marketing materials that you're putting out, it just decreases the value perceived of your company and makes people wonder what kind of product they're going to end up getting. Sometimes the improvement you avoid a lot is actually what makes you successful. Lesson 3 is something I didn't really like at first, but it was necessary, and that's operating on systems is the strongest leverage that you have. Taking a jump from being in a smaller company to a larger company, one of the quickest realizations is that everything has a system. There's a lot of compartmentalization, and things need to work and flow in certain ways. And often even systems that may seem outdated but have been perfected over time can make huge impacts and really are the backbone of the business. I can remember getting to this company and we essentially had a lot of paperwork, lots of binders, lots of papers. This was a while back, but still we were in the digital age, and I was thinking, why isn't this more digitized? Why don't we have better ways of doing communication? A lot of these systems had been implemented over time, but also perfected over time. So even though they were using what I would consider outdated methods, the actual systems were very efficient and very effective. So realize that sometimes you don't need the newest, latest, best new thing out there. I know a lot of people, like right now, it's like we need AI, or you need, these fancy different softwares for this, that, and the other thing. And this is what we help set up for clients. So yes, I would 100% suggest that, but realize that growing an amazing business doesn't always mean the latest and greatest. It means finding something that works and is repeatable and consistent. Going back to lesson 1, it's about repetition and consistency. And that is really where your systems are going to live and grow and can change over time. But in this particular case, there was always a lot of information that was passed, a new project getting started. We got a binder, the schedule, the selections, the trades, the client's information if we needed it, the lot plans, everything was in there. And this pre-construction process is one of the systems where it can really differentiate a company that's probably only going to do a few $100 million a year to one that can grow to $100 million plus a year. As I spent more and more time at this company, we started to realize that there was no part of the business that didn't have some sort of system, documentation, plan. There was nothing left to chance. Every part was a process that moved into the next process, regular meetings, regular information communication, how a client was onboarded, what happens when there was a dispute or something came up. Everything had a way of getting done throughout the company. And that's what enabled the growth and the size of the company to function at an extremely high level. Most contractors don't have strong systems, and that holds back their growth. So if you want to systemize and scale your construction company, you can apply to work with us. Click the first link in the description where we will work with you one-on-one to give you everything you need to grow your company. Fourth lesson hit me when I started working this $100 million construction company. There I learned something about sales that most contractors don't understand. And sales, yes, obviously selling the project is one part, but you need to sell to subcontractors. You need to sell to your project managers. You need to sell to the ongoing clients that they made a good decision and their house is going to be done and it's going to be amazing. So you always want to be very straightforward with clients and set expectations early. They should know ahead of time what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, what the communication is going to be like, what they are able to access and when they cannot access a property. All of this will just increase their trust and lay out guidelines for them as a client. You need to be able to manage your clients. It may not sound the greatest, but essentially, just as you would manage your company, you need to be able to manage your clients and those expectations, access, all those kind of things, and let them know when things aren't perfect. You don't want to tell them like every little thing that goes wrong, but if there's a deficiency, see if you've gone over schedule, if the budget's over, you need to call them, let them know right away. Even if it's bad news, they at least like 99% of the time will be at least happy that they have a contractor and a company that will tell them when something is wrong instead of trying to like be shady or try to cover it up or waiting, till it becomes escalated into a larger problem. So when something comes up, call the client, let them know, and really make sure that you are 100% open with the clients. The other thing I'll mention here is excuses. Just as you don't want your employees or people on your team making a bunch of excuses, your clients don't want to hear it. This just pretty much shows that you as a company owner or a company can't handle or don't know what you're doing. Yes, there are legitimate reasons why things happen and you can express that, but don't be quick to make excuses or always make some sort of story to justify things. Oftentimes, you can just state something, state it clearly, state the reason why, and that's it. Move on. If you make a big deal out of it, they are going to make a big deal out of it. So just let them know this is what happens, this is what it's going to do, and this is what you're going to take care of. Now, lesson 5 came from the CEO and senior management of this $100 million contracting company, and it was so simple but extremely valuable. I remember many conversations with one senior manager in general. He was hard, but you always had a sense that he was fair. And this style of leadership, everyone's going to have a little bit of their own personality into leadership, but realize that as the leader of a company, especially when you start to grow and expand and you've got, tens, 20s, hundreds of potential employees, there is a little bit of straight to the point, toughness, hardness that you need. It's not that you can't show your human side, but realize that at the end of the day, you need people to know that you're in charge and there isn't time for this, fluffy stuff and making sure everyone feels well. Get to the point, say what you need to say. People are expected to take the information, get their job done, and if there's something that is wrong or out of place or a teachable moment, that it'll be expressed and you're not expected to get defensive and get upset and start some internal politics about who said what. There should be a leadership style of let's everybody do their job, let's get done and move on to the next thing. A lot of businesses will say, we're a big family, we treat people like family. That's great, but realize that families have conflicts. Sometimes you have to have hard conversations with your family. So yes, treat people like family, but that doesn't mean everybody needs to, you have to go to the ends of the earth for them. It's that you're willing to have hard conversations and you're willing to grow and have people included in your environment. You always want to be praising publicly. So if someone did something well, you want to praise them publicly and then correct privately. Having that culture of being a little bit hard, it's like we are a team, we're a high performance team. You wouldn't, expect an NFL or NHL team be worried about, what people's feelings are when something, messes up or they lose a game or what have you, right? That said, these senior managers and the CEO, if there was an issue or a problem with the company or what was going on a project, they did want to know. Want to be bothered 24/7, but if it's something that warrants it, they definitely want to be in the loop. And there should be that openness that you can come and approach people and bring suggestions, questions. And there's an open mind and a real hunger, if you will, to improve and do things better. And then responsibility is very clear. So communication, having clear communication, being very specific of this is your responsibility. If you made a mistake, this is how I'd approach it, but you take care of it, right? So being explicit with what decisions people can make, how they should approach it, when you want them to come to you, when you want them to take care of it and just handle it themselves and give them some freedom and some guidance to kind of do their thing as they will. And you want to be a coach, you want to be a teacher, not a dictator. Focus on what, how, why to help build confidence and build up leadership. You need strong leaders in your company. It needs to start with you, but that conversation needs to be ongoing that this is what you're responsible for. This is how you, if it's like a project manager or something, this is how you handle the subcontractors. This is who you need to take care of. And I'll take care of what's on my side of the line. You take care of what's on your side. Lesson 6 came from the team of this $100 million construction company and helped me triple my revenue. with this lesson, and that is moving with speed. One thing that was quite evident was how fast everything moved and how fast they could turn around a house, how fast communication moved, how fast they could get a contractor to site when needed. Speed to lead wins the deal. So everything from the beginning to how fast can we get in communication, how fast can we get someone into the pre-construction and design phase. Everything, as I mentioned, had a system and a process, and they were designed for speed. So fewer decisions need to get made because they already were thought of, and we're able to get into deals. Work, that can be done today gets done today, not tomorrow. Kind of a problem, if you will, with a lot of contractors, especially newer ones, where you get so busy that you're kind of happy when there's some sort of delay at a project. Like, oh, we can't get the windows in. Now I can give the client an excuse. Oh, we can't be at your project this week because we're waiting on windows. Or don't pass the buck. If there's a way to get in there to keep production on track, do not push schedules out one day today, and then you lose another day next week and another day. And by the end of the project, you're out weeks, if not months. You really need to adhere to a schedule and make sure your subcontractors are also applying that same amount of urgency to getting done. If they say it's going to take 5 days, they need to get it done in 5 days. In your schedule, yes, you may put an extra day of buffer, but they know that they're in your good graces if they go a day over. And you really need to keep your foot on the pedal for everything throughout the business. And everybody knows speed is important. Not the kind of speed that leads to rushing and not following the process or making bad decisions, but speed as far as steady. Everything's thought out. We don't wait for anybody or anything. If we need to call a supplier, call a subcontractor, get them to site earlier. There's no excuses for things moving slow or for delays on a project. I was working as a project manager in this company. I noticed that the way they communicated was incredible, and it made a lot of clients want to work with them. Tradespeople want to work with them, even if they weren't always happy about it. So lesson 7 is the most important part of the business, and that is communications. When we think about communication, it's often, I need to talk to people and we need to talk back and forth a lot or send a bunch of emails. That is like a backup. The first set of communication, the base, is people should be able to find information about their project or whatever happened by themselves. So when they need to communicate with you, that means typically you haven't done your job with having information available for them. So if you have clients asking about schedules, budgets, what's going on site, how you do this kind of thing, you need to have an expectations document, and they should be educated in how your business runs and what's going to happen. And you should have weekly updates for them. They should be able to see schedules and all of those kind of things. There should be an info book for every project. There should be like a base information that any project manager, estimator, designer, real estate agent, whoever needs it, you're able to provide full communication of information to them. So that is your base level of communication, is having everything in an organized system. It could be a Google Drive folder, it could be a project management software, but everything in one place where you can give that information to people. The next thing is when you're operating on a lot of projects in a large company, and even if you're not at a large company now, but you aspire to be one day, all of these systems and this way of working in a business is going to help you no matter what size you're at. And so we had weekly scheduled production meetings where they were very quick. Everybody comes in, and depending who's responsible for what, they will say which project it is, what stage they're at, and any issues that have popped up. If you have a larger company, you need to probably do this weekly. If it's a smaller company, maybe every 2 weeks or a month, potentially. The other form of communication is, of course, with your subcontractors. And considering if you're operating a large business, majority of the production personnel are going to be subcontractors. You're unlikely, have like a 10, 20 person carpentry team. But if you do, this could be applicable to your field teams as well. But calls and emails, subcontractors, just as I mentioned, you should be telling your clients about what's going on. You should expect your subcontractors to be providing some sort of reports, and you need to be checking on them. They should be calling you with any issues, anything they're not understanding. There should be, again, no excuses for them for not meeting a scheduled deadline and not communicating with you as far as what's going on site. As a project manager or site superintendent, sometimes asked like, how often do you need to actually be on site? And typically every project, you should be on site every 1 to 2 days. Now, if you're running custom type homes, your project managers are probably only going to be able to handle maybe a handful. But if you have great systems and you're able to have similar types of projects like this, and you've got a good management structure, you could have one project manager potentially having 7, 10, 15 different locations that they are able to manage because of the great systems and the great subcontracting team that they have on site. They're doing a quick walkthrough, quality control, making sure the subcontractors are there and doing their jobs, taking photos to deliveries. And if you do have show homes, they are checking the show homes constantly and calling in any trade to come fix any little minor things that may be wrong with the show home because they need to look pristine, as I mentioned earlier. Another part of communication is kind of like the non-verbal, if you will, and the culture communication. So as a team, there was always this sort of unsaid communication almost that we are a winning team. We produce great projects. We have great quality. We are proud of the work that we do. And this is something that you can incorporate. It maybe can't be taught specifically of like getting that through your whole organization, but this is the type of mindset and communication that you need as a company, that you're an amazing company, you do great work, we move quickly, we have a great price product that has super high quality, and people should be proud to know that they got a home built by us. And this is what really differentiates these large contractors who are able to do large scales of business and sell at high margins and make good profit, is that they've got this culture and this winning team environment, and it communicates to the clients, to subcontractors, to everybody throughout their organization. If you want to scale your construction company by building efficient systems, click the first link in the description to apply to work with us. This is where we give you everything you need to build your dream company, and we build the modern systems for you. Now, if you want to learn how to build systems in your company, then watch this video where I break it down for you.